Next is embracing a growth mindset. So if a growth mindset being the ability to learn through dedication, we can get better and we can grow, versus a fixed mindset that might be sort of more what you get, don't get upset type mentality to your intelligence and your intellect. And whilst I think we need to hold those things in balance, of just because I want to get better at playing the piano doesn't mean I'm going to be able to become the world's best piano player. Like, it all has to be held in some sort of realistic context. But the belief that you can grow and improve and get better through dedication is a really fundamental aspect to being able to advance your career and take opportunities, and keep progressing towards the goals that you might have. And so that is a really fundamental piece of self-development. Are you feeling lost in your career, or you want to have a greater impact but you don't know where to start? Welcome to Kinda Planned, the podcast where we help you unlock the opportunities that you can't plan for. Through engaging conversations with expert guests, we help you unlock the mindsets, strategies, and tools that you need to build the career of your dreams. So subscribe so you never miss an episode. I'm your host, Alex Cuttaford, and let's take a moment to unlock your next opportunity.
Welcome everyone to our first keynote session for the Careers Festival 2025. I'm excited to be joined here by Alex Cuttaford, host of Brand My Career podcast. Before we get any further, I will do a welcome to country. We acknowledge and respect the Wiradjuri, Ngunnawal, Gundungurra and Biripi peoples of Australia, who are the traditional owners and custodians of the lands on which Charles Sturt University's campuses are located. We acknowledge the deep feelings of attachment and relationship of First Nations people to country. We acknowledge that many cultures live on this land today, and we should collectively respect the land, its past and present story for our future generations to enjoy. So Alex is here today to discuss the topic, taking ownership of your career. And I'm excited that Alex was keen to do this session with us. The way that I actually, came across Alex is we had worked at the same employer years ago, but years apart. So we never crossed paths. But when I came across his LinkedIn, was very interested in his passion for careers, his authenticity, and saw his podcast, Brand My Career, which is what really, got me interested in what he was discussing, what he was, who he was interviewing. And that's where I just followed along in the background with the different sessions that he was running. And I think that really highlights the importance of networking, of always making sure that you put your best foot forward. You never know who's watching, because it was just by chance that we'd worked at the same employer. I saw his LinkedIn, I discovered the podcast, and was then really excited to invite him to be part of the festival for 2025. As an introduction to Alex, Alex brings a unique perspective to the conversation of career development, leaving home at 16 to commence cabinet making apprenticeship and pursuing his goals of being an AFL player. He has reinvented himself numerous times as his life and goals have shifted, worked within construction, youth work, career development, and the Australian Public Service. And through his unique experience of taking ownership of career, he's now helping others do the same. Being the host of the Brand My Career podcast, he interviews guests that have an area of expertise to support people along their career journey, discussing topics of well-being, how the world of work is changing, personal branding, networking, neurodiversity in the workplace, an amazing number of topics. So I'm really excited to welcome Alex today to discuss taking ownership of your career. And I hope you get a lot out of the session today. All yours.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Nat. Really appreciate the welcome and appreciate the opportunity to come along tonight and speak with everyone. Acknowledge I'm on Warramai country today, where I'm coming from here in Fern Bay, but was originally living in Bathurst not all that long ago, and really loved my time on Wiradjuri country. And one of the things I often share in having recently gone through my move is in my previous role at Skillset, where Nat mentioned we both worked, I would start my day in Blaney. I would head into the head office in Bathurst, I'd drive up to Dubbo and connect with my team up there before coming back through Orange and heading home. And for the whole day, I hadn't left Wiradjuri country. Whereas now in my role, I start my day in Worimi country. I head 10 minutes down to the ferry. I go across the ferry and now I'm on Awabakal country. And then we'll drive up to Muswellbrook and we're on Wonnarua country. And so I just always like to acknowledge the diversity in perspectives and nations that we have in this country and really appreciate it. So yeah, thanks for the acknowledgement and excited to be here tonight about taking ownership of your career. And I guess that's obviously been something that I've done myself through my own career, as well as supporting people in their own careers through the roles that I've had in career development. And I guess a highlight of that was working as the career development programs manager at Skillset before making the move up here to Newcastle. And like Nat alluded to, so I left home at 16, hadn't done very well at school, and so and had the naive and very blind hope that I was going to be an AFL player. Very quickly worked out that I was a better cabinet maker than AFL player, and so good thing I had that to fall back on. But really enjoyed my apprenticeship and at 20 was trade qualified and ended up working as a tradesperson for another year before going overseas and traveling for a while. Coming back from overseas, I was planning to just come back, get as much money as I could quickly to head back overseas. Got married instead, stayed in Bathurst for another 10 years before we moved up to Newcastle, but moved into carpentry and sort of started picking up that, working alongside a builder. But then when my knees were sort of starting to fade at 24, I thought, all right, I need to sort of start thinking about a contingency plan here. And I'd been getting into some youth work and stuff on the side, volunteering. Thought maybe I can get into this a bit more. So I sort of moved into, I worked as a school chaplain for a year, but I was still sort of in that part-time space. And then it actually came up with a role at Skillset where they were looking for someone with trade experience and youth work experience for an apprentices mentoring program that they had at the time. So I thought, oh wow, I'm custom built for this job. So I applied for that and got it, and sort of never looked back from there. Really, when it came to career development, I just fell in love with this industry of being able to support people in their careers. One of the big aspects of it is that it creates this really practical space where you can actually really engage with a person and be a massive influence on their life, whilst you're working towards a really practical goal and supporting them in really practical ways of their life. And having a job and a career that you love is just an amazing way to have really positive outcomes for your life. So I've sort of never looked back and moved into those roles, and now working for the Department of Employment in my day job. So yeah, really diverse career, and it's every step of the way has sort of been something that I've been able to build upon and incorporate the skills and the learnings from that experience into the next thing. And what I'll dive into, I guess the philosophy that I've really come to around what it looks like to be taking ownership of your career. And like I was saying, I sat down getting ready to launch the podcast, and I really sort of sat deeply with what does it really mean for someone to be taking ownership of their career, and how can I really clearly articulate that and help people really easily take ownership of that. And that's where I sort of came to this idea of self, others, and actions. And then really looking at how self-development, building a community and a network of people around us, and taking strategic action is really at the core of what it looks like to be taking ownership of our career. And then the bridge from self to others being personal branding. And so that's the topic that I'm going to be diving into tonight and looking at some of those areas. What I'd really encourage you to be doing is, as I go through these different areas, maybe be having a think about which ones of these really stand out to me as things that I feel I'm strong in, but maybe where are the areas that I think this is maybe an area I could develop more in, and maybe that's the area you can ask further questions about, or just go away and keep thinking about for yourself as you go on your own journey. So And so doing the inner work and taking personal responsibility is really what I'm getting to when I think about what it means to do that self-development that we need to do. So the first aspect of that is cultivating a positive self-concept. This is one of the most fundamental aspects to having positive career outcomes, is whether or not you actually have a positive self-concept. And the story I always like to share when I talk about this is uh, my own journey of my self-concept. When I go back to my year two self, I'm at school and my teacher's there desperately trying to teach me how to spell and how to write. And she's clearly tried every trick in the book, and she has come to the point of going, maybe you're just not going to be a very good speller. And so as a young guy, um, I've absorbed that and taken that on board and gone, oh yeah, I'm not a good speller. That's just who I am. And so for the rest of school, I basically made little attempts to get any better at it, and kind of just relegated myself to the space of this isn't for me. I'm not going to operate in academic areas or places that require me to engage in that or require that from me. And so that really became a message that I said to myself, and it became a reason to not engage and not push myself to get better. But then I have areas that I have a really strong positive self-concept when I think about strategic thinking or ideation, because I feel in myself that this is an area I'm strong at. It's something that I engage in, which then allows me to continue getting better at it. People know me for it, and it really becomes a strength that becomes self-fueling, largely driven by the fact of how I perceive myself in that space. And so a positive self-concept is a really significant aspect to positive career outcomes. And so that's something for us all to think about and find ways of how we might be able to build that. Next is embracing a growth mindset. So if a growth mindset being the ability to learn through dedication, we can get better and we can grow, versus a fixed mindset that might be sort of more what you get, don't get upset type mentality to your intelligence and your intellect. And whilst I think we need to hold those things in balance of just because I want to get better at playing the piano doesn't mean I'm going to be able to become the world's best piano player. Like, it all has to be held in some sort of realistic context. But the belief that you can grow and improve and get better through dedication is a really fundamental aspect to being able to advance your career and take opportunities, and keep progressing towards the goals that you might have. And so that is a really fundamental piece of self-development. Developing emotional intelligence. I think this is definitely a growing area of when we think about what employers are looking for in an employee. Often you'll hear the line, I heard the line recently around, give me someone with a little bit of aptitude and a whole lot of attitude, and I'll work with that person every day of the week. And I think it's really fundamental when we think about IQ. There's all kinds of areas right now, and obviously the conversation around AI has been a growing one, and all kinds of aspects of work that are getting looked at differently and getting outsourced to AI that maybe was originally relying on brain power. But the ability to actually be able to turn challenges into opportunities, I think, is a marker of emotional intelligence, and the higher levels of emotional intelligence you have to manage relational dynamics and challenges in the workplace with optimism really comes back to that emotional intelligence piece. So that is definitely something to be thinking through when you're trying to take ownership of your career, is your emotional intelligence. And then next is defining your values. Can you actually articulate your values? Because your values are the thing that really guide you through all the ups and downs and the challenges of your career. And so the reason values are so important is because values drive beliefs, and beliefs drive behaviors, and behaviors shape cultures. So when you're thinking about the culture of a workplace that you're in, and all of us would have experienced cultures that we've loved operating in and ones that we've been just absolutely hated. A lot of that you'll trace back to the values. Maybe it was of the leadership, maybe it was of the collective organization, and maybe that this wasn't aligned with your values. And if you don't know your values, it's hard to articulate and identify when you're in an environment that's misaligned with your own. So being able to really clearly articulate and understand for yourself your own values is going to lay the foundation for all of your career success. And a lot of it's why you see people when they hit their midlife crisis and they blow up their life and they go buy the red Ferrari. That's probably someone that didn't understand that they were drifted away from their values because maybe they didn't do the work to define them and really understand them. And then all of a sudden they found themselves in a place that they're like, I don't like where I'm at. I don't like where my career has led me. The guiding force in all of that is often knowing your values. So self being cultivating a positive self-concept, embracing a growth mindset, developing emotional intelligence, and defining your values. Then that moves us into others because no one builds a career alone. No one is self-made. Everyone got a promotion because someone gave them a promotion. Unfortunately, you can't give yourself a promotion. You can't give yourself a job, and you can go get self-employed, but then you need customers. None of us are self-made. We all need a community of people. And so what I really want to just dive into is the layers of community that we can be building that really allow us to build a career that we love, and that gives us opportunities and supports us and things like that. So firstly is having an inner circle. So that is, do you have 3 to 5 people in your life that you can really be open and honest with about what your career aspirations might be or what the challenges might be to your career? Being able to have those people that you can really trust that they're going to give you the hard truths, but in a safe way and in a way that really builds you up. We all know the people that we don't want to let into that because they've already made it clear that they're disappointed in the career choices we've made. We want people that can really say, oh, like if they're going to challenge it, they're challenging because they say, yeah, but you said you really care about this, and that doesn't seem to align with your values and the thing and your other life goals. Or they might be the ones that are there really championing you and saying, absolutely, you can do this. You have to go for this job, or you should definitely go for that promotion. So having those people that are safe and can challenge you is so important. And then it's thinking about your champions. And so that might be mentors, it might be coaches, might be sponsors, or it might be leaders. And so a mentor is someone that's really going to help you through practical advice. They're the people that might be giving you insights based on their career journey. Maybe they've done the job that you want to one day be in. Coaches, that's more skills development in a specific area. Is there a specific area that you're really needing someone to help you develop those skills so that you can really add that strength to your bow? Now, sponsors is a really powerful one. And it was actually something that I hadn't been all that aware of until recently around this idea of sponsors. And they are people that are going to open doors for you. Maybe it's within your organization or within your industry, people that are going to actively advocate. And what they're actually doing is a transfer of power. It is someone that has influence in an organization that can really help open doors for you and say, hey, this person has something to contribute here. And I'm backing them. And so the important thing to remember with a sponsor is that person, you can't just necessarily get a sponsor the way you'd get a mentor. Like there is minimal risk outside of a time commitment for someone to be your mentor. But for someone to sponsor you, like you need to have shown them and won their respect and won their backing so that they would really be willing to put themselves on the line for you. And so sometimes it's then about assessing, what would it look like for me to position myself to be someone that this person would be willing to stick themselves out for me. And so that's definitely something to explore. And then a leader, and a good leader is hopefully going to be someone that operates in those functions of mentor, coach, and sponsor at different times as needed And so if you can find yourself and place yourself in a position where you have strong leadership around you, that can be such a like that will unlock opportunities for you. Because remember, it's not just about what you can do, it's about the environment that you place yourself in as well. So we're not here doing it alone. We're wanting to get those champions around us. Then it's thinking about your network. And so thinking about the industry that maybe you're wanting to get into and who are the people, who are the players, who are the key stakeholders in that industry. How can you connect with them? Maybe it's going to events, maybe it's reaching out on LinkedIn, finding ways to connect within your industry and being a part of that ecosystem is definitely a way that opens up opportunities. And like Nat said at the start, I put myself out there, put myself into an ecosystem by putting out content online in the space that I wanted to talk in and connect with. And then all of a sudden, these opportunities present themselves because you've put yourself in that ecosystem. And then there's also thinking about that broader community. You want to have people that know you, love you, and care about you, and just want to see you do well in life. Having all of these layers to a community, this goes so far to advancing our career because it's not just about what the job is. Like our career is not just in a vacuum to the rest of our life. We need and want to build these aspects, and at different times of our life, different areas of this might be stronger than others. Like I was preparing to move from Bathurst in the Central West to Newcastle, and I was realizing, oh, I'm about to leave the town that I've grown up in. Half of the network that I had, I'd known because I'd grown up there. Now I'm moving to Newcastle, and I'm going to have to try and meet all these new people, and so I had to find new ways to put myself out there. And then, so the bridge from self to others is personal branding. And I know from conversations that I have with people, it always seems to sort of be talked about as this icky thing of personal branding. But the way that I frame personal branding is your ability to communicate who you are, what you value, who you belong to, and who you're best positioned to serve. And there's a lot to unpack in there, but one of the images that I often use to sort of demonstrate, and particularly when thinking about demonstrating who you belong to, you can see it in the teenage kid that they once were your child that was in primary school and they just loved coming home and they couldn't wait to see you and they were so excited to see mum or dad or their carer and then all of a sudden they close the door and they come out, got black mascara on, and they're wearing all black, and you get more grunts than welcomes. And all of a sudden, what that young person is communicating now that they're a teenager is actually, no, I belong more to my friendship group than I belong to this, or that's what they're wanting to communicate anyway. What they're actually doing is communicating who they want to belong to, and we're all doing it all the time through all these different ways. And so it's just understanding that that's what we're doing and that what we can do can really influence in a really strong way how others perceive us, that we get the opportunities that we actually want, not the opportunities that we don't want. And the more we're able to get clear on our personal brand, the more we're able to attract the opportunities that we really want. And so we might do that through the way that we speak and what we say, or we might do that through the way that we dress and that we show up. We might do it with who we do or don't associate with. It might be how we show up online or how we don't show up online. Or it might be this lifestyle that you're living. All of these ways are ways that we can communicate who we are, what we value, who we belong to, and who we're positioning ourselves to serve through our career. And so that's some high level ways that we can think about our personal brand. But what I would say as well is when you're thinking about our career, one of the most influential and impactful ways that you'll build your personal brand in your career is thinking about the micro habits that you have every day when you show up at the office. The way that you ask questions in a meeting, or the conversations that you have in the kitchen of the office, how you talk about other people. These are the things that will really stick with people when it comes to how they perceive you and the reputation that you get, and with that, the personal brand that you exude. And so, yes, there's all these key things that we can do to be really intentional about influencing the way people perceive us. We don't have full control over that. We have very little control over our career. That's why I say take ownership of your career, not take control of your career. There's all kinds of aspects we don't control, but we can influence them, take responsibility. So our micro habits will be in the workplace the biggest influence on how people perceive us. And so now this brings us to the actions. And this is about making career enhancing decisions. And so when we get clear, and this is, you can reflect on self, others, personal brand, that can really help shape how you now think about taking strategic action in your career. But I want to start with a bit of an exercise, just for something to you to really think about. So I want you to think about a goal that you have for your career, and maybe make it bigger than I want to do well on my next test, and make it smaller than a 10-year plan with every detail mapped out. Maybe it's I want to make connections in an industry that I'm interested in getting into, or maybe it's I want to get a promotion. Now, I want you to hold that plan or that goal in an open hand. And I want you to think about self, others, and your personal brand, and what are the aspects there that you might need to develop or work on or identify that helps you work towards that goal. And so it might be that, okay, I want to get a mentor, but then all of a sudden you start thinking to yourself like, oh, no one would want to mentor me. And so maybe that's highlighting, oh, maybe there's some self-concept piece here that I need to work on of how am I viewing myself? Why don't I think someone would want to be my mentor? And so that maybe that leads to, I need to have a conversation with some of my close friends about this idea that I've got and get their thoughts. And then all of a sudden you're having a chat with one of your friends and they say, well, of course I would want to mentor you. No, you're an up and comer, you're doing great at work, or they'll remind you of all the reasons why it'd be crazy for someone not to want to mentor you. And so that leads you to go, okay, yeah, maybe I will reach out to them. And then you connect with that person, and then they say, yeah, I'd love to go for coffee and share with you about my experiences. And all of a sudden things can unfold from there. Or it might be that you want to get a promotion, and so you're going to now go and write down what are all the ways that I've been achieving well in my job, and where are the areas that I've been going above and beyond. And you're going to start listing those out and building your own evidence. And then maybe it's identifying someone that's actually going to vouch for you in the organization that you're in. Particularly if you're in a larger organization, having someone that can vouch for you could really unlock things where you're not just going to be seen by everyone naturally because it's a small, agile team. And then maybe that leads you to thinking, oh, I need to do some interview prep and really get ready and clear here. So there's some examples of how some of that might unfold. But the reason I said hold that in an open hand is because of this thing called planned happenstance. It's a career development theory, and it's been the thing that I've really latched onto when I think about my career journey, is this idea of planned happenstance. When we take a positive action, it creates opportunities that we couldn't necessarily have planned for. When I decided to launch the podcast, I didn't necessarily know that I was going to get an opportunity to speak at CSUs Careers Festival. But how good is it that it did? And so, but if I was holding my goals, sometimes if we hold our goals too tightly, we miss the opportunities that then present off the back of the actions that we've taken. And so the place that I've kind of come to in my career, and what I would encourage is that you actually evaluate opportunities based on your values rather than the goal that you have, because the goal might change, but you're hopefully going to identify the values that aren't going to change and that are going to continue to hold you in good stead throughout your career, because it's not just about ticking boxes of X role, or like some people might be driven by a title or money, but ultimately you really want to make sure it's in alignment with your values as well. And so holding your goals in an open hand means that when opportunities come up, because you've taken action, you've taken steps, you've tried different things, all of a sudden those things don't become failures, because it just becomes an opportunity for you to learn something, because you tried this and it presented, maybe an opportunity came up that you're like, no, like I'm not interested in that. Or maybe you go, actually, I didn't even know that was a thing. Oh, I'm going to pursue that because actually that's in line with my value of serving others, or whatever that might be for you. So that's why I'm really big on weighing up our opportunities based on our values. So I've gone through there in a pretty high level, looking at self, so doing the inner work, taking personal responsibility. Others, because no one's self-made. Uh, Building a personal brand, because that allows us to connect from self to others, and taking the inner work that we do and connecting with other people and the people that we hope to connect with. And then it's about taking strategic action in line with your values. So I hope that was really helpful. I'm hoping that there's people that are wanting to ask questions maybe and think about other areas of it, topics. I'm really keen to hear what people might want to ask, and what they're thinking about for their own career.
Thank you so much for that, Alex. That was amazing. Now, a little bit earlier on, we just had a question there. Just hoping you could just go back over the points of personal branding that you mentioned were important. If you're happy to just
Yep.
cross those again, that would be
Mm-hmm.
amazing.
Yep. So the definition that I give to it is personal branding is your ability to communicate who you are, what you value, who you belong to, and who you're best positioned to serve. And some of the ways that we can do that is through the way that we speak and what we say, the way we dress and show up in the world, who you do and don't associate with, how you show up online, and your lifestyle. So they say that people have made an assumption about someone within 5 to 8 seconds of actually seeing them. And so that is pretty significant. And it's one of those things where it can often be viewed as vain when we think about the way that we dress. But unfortunately, or not unfortunately, it doesn't have to be a vain thing, that what we wear does actually influence how people perceive us. But it also gives us a great opportunity. And for me, as someone that has a value of creativity, it can be a really great way of expressing parts of our personality, as well as demonstrating professionalism, or being a casual person. All different environments will require different things. I wear a suit to work and I wear a hoodie in most of my interviews.
Don't mention hoodies, Alex.
I actually love CSU hoodies. The orange hoodie with the logo is, yeah. I
Have you
want
got one?
I don't have one. I need to do a CSU course first.
Well, look, I think this event gives you honorary access. We'll see.
Oh,
We'll see if we can get you one.
that would be amazing. I'll wear it every episode from then on.
I know you mentioned with LinkedIn and being authentic, and I guess that networking side of things. Is that something that you mentioned being creative, that came quite naturally to you, or is it something that you really had to work on to be confident to put yourself out there, to, I guess, even show parts of your podcast? You've got some interviews that are recorded there. How did that sort of progress? Was it something that jumped straight
So,
into, or took a lot of trial and error?
bit of all of the above. I fell in love with communication actually because my wife did her PR communications degree at CSU in Bathurst. Um, and then it was when she was doing that course. And I used to think communications was just talking about the thing instead of doing the thing. And then she was going through this course, and I started picking her brain on it, and I fell in love with it. I probably love it more than her now. So I sort of kind of got a subsidiary degree through CSU by picking my wife's brain every time she was working on assessments at CSU. Um, but I really fell in love with this idea of and the impact that we can have through social media in these different areas and stuff as they were rising. So um, yeah, I definitely feel funny at times, particularly when I think about old schoolmates and stuff, and if they saw me putting out professional content online, they might think this guy's crazy. What is going on here? But I think as I became attached to the passion of wanting to support people, that really overrid for me the feelings of insecurity. And that was really what allowed me just to switch into focusing on the impact that you can have rather than how people might be perceiving me as a person. So I think that really was what allowed me to get over the line there in terms of I know a lot of people have that paralysis of showing up online, feeling like, what's everyone going to say about me? And you might get that, but more often than not, it's like if someone was ever going to say anything, it's like they're the ones that are going to look pretty bad if they tried to embarrass anyone for showing up online and trying to support the people that they want to support online.
Amazing. And we have a question from someone that's here today. How do you create opportunities based on values like growing and learning as part of the real corporate world? I hope I got that right.
Well, I guess largely my point was around them being the basis to evaluate the opportunities. But also, I guess when you think about, so for me, kindness is a value and showing up with kindness is important. And often, if you show up in a way that people actually like being around you, all of a sudden they might now feel more comfortable to share their ideas that maybe they wouldn't have shared. And then you realize, oh, that's an awesome idea. Like, tell us more about that. And then they uncover a piece of the puzzle that maybe we were needing to unlock an opportunity or how to make an event better or how to make a resource that we're building better. And so it becomes these little threads. When I think about opportunities, it's really about the threads that we're willing to pull on to see what happens versus being the person that says, oh no, that's not going to work, like, and they don't even want to hear about it. And a lot of that, when you get down to it, is about what are some of the underpinning values that we have that would lead us to have that approach of wanting to learn and grow or wanting to hear other perspectives and believing other people have valid perspectives. Like a big thing for me is I believe everyone has a perspective and something to share that is valuable. And when the rubber hits the road of that is even the people I disagree with most and often you see people that are really disagreeing with each other are probably more similar to each other than they realize, but maybe the common factor is they're both really stubborn. So all of these values just start to flow through all the different things that we do.
Alex, there's a really nice story here from Regina, and I'll read it out on her behalf. She said she'd like to share her story with us. When she decided to go back to study and start her med science course, her partner at the time said, "Are you going to go back to study now and finish uni in your 40s?" First of all, I'll say that's pretty young. And then what, they said. Well, guess what, says Regina. It took me 5 years, but I'm currently a scientist at New South Wales Pathology. And she said, look, that's just a reminder for everyone watching this session that your strong mindset and getting away from people that try to put you down is really important. And as you said, with your coaches, sponsors, mentors, and your layered community of support, to stick to the ones that can contribute with your goals.
That's an awesome story, and so glad to hear it. And that's it. The whole point, and I guess what my career is often a picture of is that there's no one way to build your career. There's no one pathway. Like I still haven't done a university degree, though there's different aspects that are on my radar, but just letting them play out. It hasn't stopped me from getting jobs that require tertiary education, because typically I've been able to demonstrate my skills and my knowledge through the experiences and just going step by step, and a little 1 degree shift, 1 degree shift, and you can move yourself through all kinds of different ways. And I had probably written myself off at a younger age. When you think about positive self-concept, I I couldn't see myself getting off the tools and being in an office environment. And it wasn't until maybe a few years in at skill set when people started getting more shocked that I had a trade experience that I realized, oh, I think I've made the shift. Everyone's more shocked now that I'm a tradie than that I'm in an office. Like me and some of the guys that had sort of all come into that program were kind of like, um, yeah, we were kicking ourselves when we got to go to office meetings, and they're putting out cheesecake and stuff for the staff meeting, and we're thinking we've made it. Like, don't get this when you're on the tour. So everyone has a different journey to get to where they're going, and yeah, absolutely, you got to get the right people around you.
I think that's such a reminder too that so it's like that office idea, and people go, gosh, I don't know how you work in an office, but there's so many things that are involved in that sort of career, like what
Mm,
we're doing today,
mm,
or being able to help people with their careers, that it's not just being in an office, it's getting to
mm.
do amazing things.
Yeah.
There is a really amazing question that I'll ask you from Eliza. Do you have any suggestions on how to support someone who is in the process of working out what they want to do after deciding they don't align with their current career?
Um, Obviously, every context would be different, but the very first thing that comes to my mind is don't put pressure. Like being being willing to hold. This is something that I've been working with a career coach myself, and I've been really trying to hone in on what my personal brand is. And one of the things that I've really come to is I want to be someone that holds space for people. And so when someone is in this space, you see it a lot with parents, and they're trying to support their young person that's maybe leaving school, and they don't know what they want to do yet. And the temptation is to try and jump in and help and give all the advice that you have. And so sometimes the best thing you can do is just hold space for someone, sit there, be available for them to talk if they want to talk about different things. And as they explore ideas, you don't have to have answers for them. You can just allow them to think things through, particularly like if someone's feeling anxious about it. You don't have to have all the answers for them. Just allow them to explore and go, oh yeah, that would be interesting. Or what is it about that you're drawn to? Or maybe asking a few curious questions without being too intense can be really good for someone in that space. Or if they're not so much anxious, but they're just really curious and trying to nut it out, it's like maybe it's pushing them a little bit to go, oh, well, look into that further, and oh, who's someone you could talk to that's in that industry, or little prompting nudges towards the next little step without sort of diving towards or jumping to you know, the killer is when you sort of shut it down, and particularly if it's a young person going, oh, you'd have to do 5 years of uni to do that, or oh, you don't get paid very well in that industry, and all these little things can really cut off someone's exploration. So I would say hold space and explore with them.
And you mentioned just then having the career coach, and you mentioned a few times the mentoring, and our team are big supporters of mentoring and the value that it can have. How have you found your experience with having career coach, having mentors along the way, and the difference that that's been able to make in where you're at
Um,
now?
a career coach is better than a therapist, is what I would say. Um,
We'll take that.
Yeah. But in all honesty, I've honestly felt like so, and I said this to her the other day, after one of the sessions. I was like, it is very rare for someone to hold space for me like this, because it's such a value for me to hold space for others and allow others to explore and not to make moments about myself. Having someone to sit there and allow me to articulate my thoughts bounce ideas back and forth with, and just ask some curious questions to really help me get clear on some things has just been unbelievable. The focus of it has been for me around my personal brand, but not so much, when you think about branding, you might think like for me, I've got my podcast and there's particular ways that I'm branding that, but really it's more about me and really digging into what do I want to be known for and what am I driven by, and so we really, on the surface, it might be this is what I do, but then we really started to drill down onto, okay, well, what's really driving you wanting to do that? And then under that was really about how do you want people to experience you? And then what is a way that I could then articulate a sort of way, all of those aspects in a way that I can articulate it so that then I can start attracting the opportunities that I really want versus being the person that, and we're talking about, sometimes there's the person on your team that they hate something, but turns out they're really good at it. And so I often, and I say this jokingly, the advice of don't be good at things that you don't want to do because you might get lumped into those things. But the more you can articulate what you want to do and be good at those things, the more you start to attract the opportunities you get at. So that's my experience. It's been amazing. This helping me clarify and really just think things through. They're not going to be giving you all the answers. They're not going to say, oh, map it all out for you. It's going to be someone that just sits with you and helps you explore your options. They're going to have different knowledge that they can draw from to help you explore, but ultimately it's still on you. You're not outsourcing the decisions of your career and the ownership of your career. You're just getting someone to really bounce ideas off, and I recommend it highly to anyone because even a night like this is good, sharing this information, but it's a career coach that after this you could go sit down with and say, oh, they said this and this, and they can help you really process it for yourself and what it looks like.
We've got one more question, Nat, that's just popped in. Jennifer Joy says, if people are asking what I'm doing next and I don't know, what's the best way to answer and sound confident about the next role, even though you're not sure at all how that might look? It's a great question, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'll maybe assume that that's from a potential employer or someone in that professional space because that's when it's most when you sort of might be feeling tricky and awkward about it. Because what I would also say is like that question's a very culturally driven question, and we sort of don't know what else to ask people other than what do you do? And it is okay to say, I don't know. And it is okay to sit with that and say, I'm not really sure at the moment. And if you do say that confidently, I think that sounds even within itself. I often say I don't fully know what's next, and that I'm still just sort of working my way out as I go. I actually applied for the job that I'm in now, saying one of the driving forces of wanting to take this role was learning how government works and operates, to understand if I am best positioned to work in government or maybe whether or not I'm better positioned, delivering government contracts, which like I had before and things, or working in the private sector. That's an answer that some people are comfortable with, some aren't. Some employers like hearing that, others might not. So that's obviously something for people to weigh up. But so I would just continue to sit with the fact that you're unclear. Maybe keep asking yourself why you're unclear, and that might give you an answer as to going where you're seeing your life. Have a think about your life as well. Are you unclear? Are you clear why you're leaving the job that you're in or why you're not happy? And if you identify why you're not happy, then you might be identify the environment that you're looking for. So you might be able to say, you might actually have, technically, you have no idea what you want to do, but you want to be outdoors, or you want to be in a creative environment or an agile environment, or you want something with more structure and if you identify that, maybe you just say to someone, "Oh, I'm looking for somewhere that really allows me to use my strategic thinking strengths."
Can I just
Or
give you a little bit more context
yeah,
there, Alex? Um, uh, Jennifer Joy has said she's just been made redundant, but also has finished her degree.
mm,
I guess that's more context around
yeah,
being asked what's next and trying to sound confident about it, even though you're not really sure what's around the corner.
yeah. Can I tell you, I've interviewed a lot of people in my podcast that are doing really cool stuff off the back of being made redundant. It seems to be this catalyst to launching people into the thing that they actually really wanted to do, and maybe they would have stuck it out where they were if it wasn't for the redundancy. Um, and so, absolutely, there's no shame in it. There's absolutely it's nothing personal in most instances when there's a redundancy. There's this unforeseen thing that's happened. Um, and I see it a lot. So in my role in government, we are often called into situations if there's large scale redundancies. The people that struggle most in that environment are the people that don't think that they can take the steps to do something different. But the people that have the ability to recognize I've got heaps of skills that I've been building over this time that can transfer into all kinds of different directions. The ones that manage to find optimism in amongst what might be, it's a really sad and emotional time going through that, particularly if you've been a long-standing employee in that workplace. So um, mindset is everything in this moment, I think, when employers are often biting at the bit to get some if there's some redundancies through restructuring or stuff, employers aren't looking at that and thinking negatively of that person. They're thinking, oh, you beauty, an opportunity to get the employers are desperate for employees in lots of industries. So I'd say um, think about your mindset, think about those aspects of cultivating positive self-concept and really, nurturing your and seeing the opportunity of, well, what do I want to do? And I don't have to be governed. And you might take an interim job while you're still thinking through that on a bigger level. But it's definitely not the end. It's in many cases, from what I've seen, the beginning of amazing careers doing really exciting stuff.
Amazing. And we've had one more question pop in, which I'll fit in with a few minutes to go. Any advice for those early in their careers and struggling to get kinds of jobs that you had in mind and not very clear which opportunities you should target going ahead?
So could you say that one again? I missed the
Sorry.
first bit.
Any advice for those early in their careers and struggling to get kinds of jobs that you had your mindset on and not very clear which opportunities you should target going ahead?
Mm. Mm. There's lots of bits in there because obviously I'm hearing what you had your eyes set on. So
Yep.
it's assessing that and asking yourself, is this thing the thing that I'm holding strong and I'm not gonna waver? Or is it going, actually, maybe that needs to adjust? And I've done both. Uh, I so before I took this role, I applied for 3 jobs. I got 3 interviews because I was intentional about the jobs I applied for, and then I got a job offer, and I wasn't going to quit my current job until I had my job. I'd made that commitment to my wife. But then I had to break it to her. I was saying to her, I was like, I think this is the right time to finish up. The same day that I was planning to finish up, I got called and I got offered a job. But on the phone when they were offering me the job, I had this sense of I'm really looking for learning opportunities. And I get the sense that this organization's and this role's in a bit of a survival mode. And it's just going to be, we just need to plug it so that we've got this role filled. And I just had this off sense and I thought, no, I'm not gonna take it. So I turned it down. and quit my job. And then had a very nervous wait for another week while I waited for the employer that I was hanging out on to call, and they called and I got it. And so that was a moment where I stood my ground based on what I knew I wanted, and I turned down that role. There might be other times when you go, you know what, I'm going to take this job. This is going to serve me right now for what I need. And if I need to change again down the track, I'll do it. So I think that really, for me, like I've been saying throughout this, are you clear on your values? If you're clear on your values, then you can work up from there. If you're sort of really not knowing what you're wanting to get out of your career, then it makes it a bit harder to weigh up those decisions. But there might also be for you less consequence of either which way. What's the consequence to hanging tight and waiting for this really thing? Have you researched that thing that you're really hanging out on, and all of a sudden you realize, oh, there's like 2 opportunities for that in the country, and none of them are in the area that I'm even in right now. So it's weighing up all those things. Is this realistic? I came to this thing of matured optimism is what I like to call it, because I'm very optimistic, but when me and my wife first got married, my optimism had no rooting in reality. I tried starting my own furniture making business when we were living in our 1-bedroom apartment, and I had no tools because I'd sold most of them when I'd gone traveling. I was building cabinets on top of a glass table. So that is optimism not based in reality, and obviously that didn't become a long-term business for us, and I moved back into full-time work pretty quickly. So you got to weigh up, all of these different aspects. So I don't have a straight answer on that one without really digging into the details on that with the person asking, but this weighing up all those different aspects is important.
Thank you so much, Alex. And that is the last question that I can see there. Michelle, we might finish the recording there, if that's okay, and then we can.
Thanks for tuning in to Kinda Planned. Subscribe and send this episode to a friend that you think needs to hear it. Or head to my website, www.kindaplan.com.au for free resources. Or follow me on LinkedIn and socials so that we can keep the conversation going. Now go unlock your next opportunity.